Regular viewers may recall that about a year ago I encountered a stationery shop in Norwich which had a PC from 1994 for sale in the window. Now, this being Norwich, it's perfectly normal to expect some things are behind the times, but this shop felt like it was stuck in a 25-year-old time warp. It was in the process of shutting down, but I couldn't tell if it had been shutting down for the past 25 years or I just caught it at a good time. But I secured this hodgepodge of a PC from the owner with a nice Panasonic dot matrix printer and a fax machine with a brand new ink cartridge for about 80 quid, which was nice. Fast forward back to today and it feels the right time to take a closer inspection of this mystery setup so we can determine what it's made up of, what's inside it and what's on it, whilst investigating a bit of its history along the way. Now, we might not find vintage pornography like the last mystery PC I looked at, but surely there must be something of interest. I've got to admit, the look of this thing just fills me with glee. That mishmash of monitor, keyboard and unmatched base unit just harks back to the mid-90s. Back then it was pretty expensive to pick up an IBM PC compatible, but there was a local shop which sold mismatched combinations like this for bargain prices. You know, perhaps an old compact 386 base unit discarded by a business, paired with a random monitor brand and a Dell keyboard, but who cared because it meant you could finally get a proper PC and get down to some serious computing. And by that I mean playing Doom. So I genuinely like what we have going on here. In fact, the ICL DRS keyboard and monitor are a likely match. The DRS stands for Distributed Resource System, a brand which initially ICL used for its servers, but by the late 80s united all their PC brands under one banner. A quick inspection on the bottom reveals this keyboard was once owned by British Gas. As for the monitor, it's post-1990 when Fujitsu had acquired 80% of ICL, but bears an ownership sticker on the back from the very shop I bought it from. This monitor and keyboard pairing was seen on various systems including the 286-based ICL DRS45. However, here we've got a Dell Optiplex 466LE base unit which was definitely never sold by ICL or Fujitsu. I can only guess that the previous owner decided to upgrade his base unit but kept the existing keyboard and monitor combination he had before. Now, the Optiplex range was a business line of PCs first released by Dell in 1993. This particular model is the second phase of Optiplex, a more streamlined, low-profile range which almost certainly sought inspiration from Compact's sleek ProLinear range. As a business machine, we're unlikely to find thrills and excitement, but let's take a look inside anyway. Getting inside is as simple as a couple of finger screws and a slide. There's a bit of dust, but otherwise it's quite sparse in here. As usual with these low-profile cases, we've got a 16-bit ISA riser card, although judging by the Visa local bus slot, it's clear some versions had a full local bus riser. If that were the case, we could install a relatively fast video card, like the Cirrus Logic 5428, you know, these catchy names in the 90s, but as it stands it doesn't matter because we've got an integrated Cirrus Logic CL GD5429 graphics chipset, which I believe is running at the local bus speed of 33 MHz anyway. It also has 1MB of RAM, allowing a maximum resolution of 1280 by 124 with 16 colours, which for 1994 wasn't half bad. In fact, most of the components we see here weren't half bad, and if you had some spare time between spreadsheets, they're more than capable of running most games of the era. The LIF-socketed CPU has a fairly substantial heatsink for a 486DX266, but better to be safe than sorry. RAM is served up by a single 16MB SIM module, whilst storage needs are catered for by the 540MB IDE Quantum Lightning Pro drive. We've even got a CD-ROM stashed away under the 3.5-inch floppy drive. Clearly, this is an aftermarket upgrade, as 32-speed drives weren't out until around 97. On the back panel, there's not much going on. We've got a 150-watt power supply, PS2 connectors, two 9-pin serial ports, a parallel port and a VGA out. Oh, there's also a lock if you want to prevent people from opening the case and stealing something from within. Alright, time to fire this machine up. Now, straight off the bat, we've got a BIOS error. It turns out I'll need to reopen the machine and get a new coin battery. I didn't see it on the first inspection, as it turns out it's here. Yeah, tucked away behind that riser card, but we just need to sort out a few settings and then we can boot. Now, look at this incredible DOS boot sequence. Isn't that something? So pure, so elegant, I live for this stuff. We're put straight into DOS, which is nice. A quick dir command indicates that really there's not a lot going on in this drive. I don't think we're going to find too many secrets, but you never know. The only directory which stands out is this one, Page. Let's take a look in there. Ah, yes, of course, it's an accounting program, Page Financial Controller, another one of those standout names. So it looks like that stationery shop survived 25 years of trading 90s goods purely by having a good DOS accounting system. There's actually a crap load of customer data still on here as well, so it looks like this computer had a fairly mundane life as an accounting machine. One can only speculate what the CD-ROM drive was for. Now, sensitive information should be kept encrypted, which is why I want to talk about this video's sponsor, NordLocker. Of course, things weren't as easy or connected back in 1995 as they are now, but with a lot of our sensitive data sitting in a cloud somewhere, all it takes is an overlooked third party, a rogue employee, a data breach, even a government subpoena, and that data is no longer just your data. So NordLocker offers complete end-to-end file encryption. Simply install the app, choose your locker type, and then the entire contents becomes fully encrypted. NordLocker can even find files you want to be kept away from prying eyes automatically. After that, you can share your locker with seamless integration to Dropbox, to name one, and then allow other people to access only on your terms. Grab the free version and you can encrypt up to 2 GB of data, but visit nordlocker.net/nostalgianerd with coupon code nostalgianerd, and you'll also get 32% discount on a 1-year premium plan with unlimited encryption. We're talking just $12 a year. Click the link in the description below to create a more secure environment. Okay, let's get back to this. I never talked about the monitor, did I? It's a pretty crisp display. These ICL Fujitsu monitors are always pretty solid. Same with the keyboard. The keys have a nice response, they're not loose, and there's a nice action to them. It's quite nice all these keys have extra commands on the front as well, kind of reminds me of a Commodore 64. Underneath we've got almost a Fujitsu peerless spring over dome switch. There's a buckling spring, but these very fragile metal switches which connect when pressed, thus triggering an input. Anyway, I think I'm going to dedicate the rest of this video to just exposing what a pure machine this is. It feels, you know, it feels like a brand new DOS PC waiting for good things to happen to it, on the inside at least. It's running DOS 6.2, so not arguably the best version of 6.22, but this one is nice. It has a few quirks. One of those was the last entry of the double space program. This allowed you to compress your hard drive and effectively double its space at the cost of speed, depending on compression ratios. But double space in DOS 6 actually had quite a significant flaw in that it could lose your data at the drop of a hat. It was corrected for this release of DOS, but the rapidly following DOS 6.22 would actually replace double space with drive space to get around the stigma attached to it, along with some code infringement issues with Stacker from Stack Electronics. It's for this reason that DOS 6.2 is a rarer breed than 6.22. But all the regulars are here. ScanDisk, Defrag, which reveals a nice uniform drive. There's even classics like QBasic in case you wanted to do some coding. Edit is here, and of course MemMaker. Now, MemMaker's goal was to optimize your startup files to create more free DOS conventional memory. You see, when DOS boots, it runs the files config.sys, which loads drivers, sets variables, and defines the base DOS configuration, and autoexec.bat, which executes any programs which need loading on startup. MemMaker will try and optimize which parts of memory these drivers and programs are loaded to free up as much conventional DOS memory as possible. I've done videos on this in the past if you want to find out more, but all of this is just so damn nostalgic. You'd think I'd be over it by now, but I'm not. Also, we've got good old Windows 3.1 on here, so let's take a closer look at that. Ah yes, my favourite version of Windows. So simple, so easy to use. There seems to be nothing on here apart from the base programs really. File Manager is really what File Explorer is now, because Program Manager is really where the bulk of Windows 3.1 takes place, and it's really doing its own thing. Under the control panel we can go through some exceptional colour palettes. I've substituted an LCD screen here just because it removes the on-screen flicker, so it makes sense to make use of the Windows LCD colour scheme. Didn't often get a chance to crack this out in the 90s, but there's no doubt that Hot Dog is still the colour scheme of choice. Man, I just loved playing around with stuff like this. Windows backgrounds. In these early days, you could either set a monochrome repeating pattern, which used far less memory, or if you were feeling lavish, you could opt for an actual tiled image. This is only 16 colour mode, so the 256 colour balls don't really work too well. Now, DOS 6.2 actually came with a slew of Windows versions of its own programs, so we've got stuff like Microsoft Undelete if you needed to recover deleted files. Although this isn't Recycle Bin, it was never a certainty you could retrieve something you've deleted. There doesn't seem to be much we can salvage from this machine. Microsoft Antivirus was pretty terrible, but it was better than no virus protection at all, especially if you were in the habit of swapping floppies with mates. Smart Drive allowed you to manage your DOS cache in Windows, nice to have but not essential. Of course, it's easy to forget that Windows 3.1 is simply running on top of DOS. It's not really an operating system itself, just a graphical user interface with its own program environment. Of course, we also get all the usual Windows programs, Paint, Write, even Card File. I mean, this was the early to mid-90s, people were actually still using paper card files at this point, so if you were going to transfer addresses and names to computer, it made sense to have it in a similar style. Pretty weird now, of course, and there were better programs at the time, but these were free, so it doesn't matter. And of course we get the Windows games, Solitaire and Minesweeper. Hours of pure entertainment. Now at this point I was going to load some games and see really what this beast could do, but there were a few problems. Firstly, look at what this bloody disk drive did to one of my floppy disks. Yes, this was a floppy I needed for another video as well. I've had to source an alternative from eBay, but you know, it read it fine to start with and then decided to scratch the living hell out of it. That is a seriously misaligned floppy head. The CD-ROM drive wasn't much better. Yeah, it's pretty dead. It's trying to read the disc, but it's simply not spinning up. So that 32 speed malarkey has quickly changed to 0 speed. This is going to need some fixing, or more likely I'll just swap a new drive in. So that really brings this machine to a close. I think it definitely has scope for the future. I've been after a nice 486 DX266 for a while. It's the processor which really represents that mid-90s era for me. It was the dog's nuts for a while, and a lot of games from that generation are built to run best under its pure maths co-processing might. I reckon this might be a good DOS trudging machine, maybe not for actual 3D games, but Doom, Descent, Pacific Strike, that whole era is perfect for this. I haven't got time to start it in this video, but I reckon a new floppy drive and a quad-speed CD-ROM and we'll be sorted. Don't want to be too flash, otherwise it lacks authenticity of the era. So stay tuned for some upgrades on this fine stationery shop PC, and thanks for watching. Until next time, have a great evening.